In the eyes of U.S. military law, there exists one honor so rare and absolute that even the highest generals must salute its recipient, regardless of their own rank. Established by Abraham Lincoln amid the chaos of the Civil War, this medal was designed to transcend every ladder of command, demanding reverence not just for bravery, but for sacrifice above and beyond the call of duty. In more than a century and a half of conflict, just 3,517 Americans have received it, and nearly 2 out of every 3 were awarded after their death. Yet from the mass purges of 1917 to eras when entire groups of soldiers were denied recognition, its meaning has always hung in the balance. What does it really take, not just to earn this singular award, but for a nation to agree on what it truly stands for? In December 1861, as the Civil War tore through the country and casualty lists grew longer, a new kind of recognition took shape in Washington. Senator James W. Grimes of Iowa brought a resolution before Congress, urging the creation of a medal to reward extraordinary valor among sailors and Marines. The proposal was straightforward: to promote the efficiency of the Navy by honoring those who distinguished themselves through gallantry in action. President Abraham Lincoln signed Public Resolution 82 into law on December 21, 1861, authorizing the first Navy Medals of Honor. Less than 7 months later, the Army followed suit. Senator Henry Wilson of Massachusetts introduced a similar bill, which Lincoln signed on July 12, 1862, extending the award to non-commissioned officers and privates. These acts marked the first time the United States had a single, official decoration for personal bravery, one that made no distinction between officers and enlisted men. The Medal of Honor was never tied to rank or social standing. It was only tied to the documented courage of the individual. In a time when the outcome of the war was anything but certain, the medal served as both an incentive and a promise. It told every soldier and sailor that their actions, not their title, could earn the nation's highest respect. This principle would become the core of the medal's identity, even as later generations struggled with how to define and defend what true valor means. In 1916, Congress ordered a sweeping review of every Army Medal of Honor ever awarded. The War Department assembled a board of 5 retired generals, each with decades of service, and charged them with a difficult task: to scrutinize the record of every recipient since the Civil War and determine whether the medal had truly been earned in combat. When the board delivered its report in February 1917, the findings sent shockwaves through military circles. Of the 2,625 medals reviewed, the board recommended revoking 911. Most of these came from a single episode, the mass award to all 864 men of the 27th Maine Infantry, who had received the medal simply for extending their enlistments during the Gettysburg campaign. The board also struck medals awarded for non-combat acts, such as firefighting or ceremonial duties, and ruled that civilians were ineligible under the law, among them the famous scout Buffalo Bill Cody. The most controversial decision involved Dr. Mary Edwards Walker, a contract surgeon and the only woman ever to receive the Medal of Honor. The board found no evidence of distinguished gallantry in combat and annulled her award. Dr. Walker refused to give up the medal. She wore it every day until her death in 1919, and she declared, "Let them come and get it." Decades later, the Army reversed course. In 1977, after years of public and congressional advocacy, Dr. Walker's medal was restored. The same would happen for the 5 civilian scouts in 1989. These reversals show how the meaning of the Medal of Honor, who deserves it and why, has always been shaped by debate, review, and the defense of its standards. Federal law defines the Medal of Honor with a phrase that has remained unchanged for generations: conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of life, above and beyond the call of duty. This legal standard sets the bar at its highest point. Acts so exceptional cannot be required by any order or expected of any rank. The language is codified in the United States Code and serves as the enduring benchmark for every nomination, review, and award. No other decoration in the U.S. military requires this level of sacrifice or scrutiny. The numbers reveal just how rare the medal truly is. Since 1861, across every branch in every American conflict, the Department of Defense records 3,517 Medals of Honor awarded. That spans more than 160 years of warfare, from the Civil War to Afghanistan. The scale is almost inconceivable against the millions who have served. For every million Americans who have worn the uniform, fewer than 2 have received this honor. Rarity alone does not capture the full cost. About 62% of all Medals of Honor have been awarded posthumously. The majority of recipients did not survive the actions that earned them the medal. Their citations describe moments measured in seconds, split-second decisions, self-sacrifice under fire, and acts that meant certain death. The medal's legal standard and its human toll have remained constant even as the nature of war and the military itself have changed. This combination of statutory language and statistical reality explains why the approval process must be so exacting and why the meaning of the medal has been so fiercely defended. A Medal of Honor nomination begins not with a headline, but with a stack of paperwork and a strict checklist. The process starts at the unit level, where a commanding officer submits a formal recommendation using Form D-2-1501. This form is more than a cover sheet, and it demands a detailed narrative of the action, a copy of the after-action report, and, most critically, 3 sworn eyewitnesses. Without these first-hand accounts, the process stops cold. The law sets a 2-year limit from the date of the act for a nomination to be filed, though Congress or the Secretary of Defense can grant waivers in rare cases, often when records surface decades later. Once the nomination packet is assembled, it moves up the chain of command. Each level, battalion, brigade, division, conducts a careful review of the evidence, checks it against the statutory definition of conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of life, above and beyond the call of duty, and ensures that no other award has already been given for the same act. At the Service Branch Headquarters, a formal board, such as the Army's Award Review Board, scrutinizes every detail. If the board is convinced, the nomination advances to the Secretary of the respective branch, who must personally endorse it. But the final decision rests with the President. Only the Commander-in-Chief can approve and present the Medal of Honor. The President's signature on the citation is the last unbreakable gate. This chain of review, from the first form to the White House, exists to ensure that the medal's meaning is protected at every step. Every safeguard is designed to keep the standard clear. No rank, no political influence, and no shortcuts, only documented, extraordinary valor. Not a single black soldier received the Medal of Honor for service in World War II. This was not for lack of heroism. More than 1 million African Americans served, many in segregated units, and countless acts of valor were recorded in battle reports. Yet every nomination for the nation's highest military honor was denied or downgraded, the process quietly closing its doors to black soldiers. The official record stayed silent for more than half a century. The pattern extended beyond African Americans. Japanese American soldiers of the 442nd Regimental Combat Team, who fought in some of the most brutal campaigns in Europe, were recognized with Distinguished Service Crosses and Silver Stars, but not the Medal of Honor itself. The system, shaped by the prejudices of its era, left entire communities erased from the highest level of recognition. In the 1990s, the Department of Defense commissioned a comprehensive review. The study, conducted with Shaw University, found clear evidence of institutional bias in the award process. Congress granted waivers to the 2-year nomination rule, opening the path for overdue recognition. In January 1997, President Bill Clinton stood in the East Room of the White House and presented the Medal of Honor to 7 black World War II veterans, 6 posthumously. Vernon Baker, the only living recipient, accepted on behalf of those who could not. 3 years later, the record was corrected again when President Clinton awarded the medal to 22 Asian American soldiers, including members of the 442nd Regimental Combat Team. These ceremonies did not erase the decades of exclusion, but they did force the Medal of Honor's own system to reckon with its history, showing that even the most rigorous standards can be bent by the times and sometimes can be repaired. Each branch of the United States military has shaped the Medal of Honor's appearance to reflect its own ideals, yet every version draws from a shared language of symbols. The earliest design committees, convened in the 1860s, turned to the imagery of ancient republics for inspiration. On the Army's original medal, Minerva, the Roman goddess of wisdom and war, stands at the center, helmeted and resolute. She faces down discord, a reminder that valor requires both strength and judgment. The Navy and Marine Corps chose Athena, Minerva's Greek counterpart, flanked by an anchor and laurel. These classical figures spoke to 19th century Americans about the virtues they believed should define a republic at war: courage, wisdom, and civic duty. At the heart of every Medal of Honor lies a 5-pointed star. This motif, consistent across all branches, encodes the 5 core virtues the medal is meant to recognize: courage, honor, sacrifice, commitment, and patriotism. The star is surrounded by a green laurel wreath, the ancient mark of victory and achievement. The word valor appears on a bar above the medal, and it was a late addition in 1942 to mark repeat awards. Designs have evolved alongside the military itself. When the Air Force became a separate service in 1947, its leaders called for a distinctive symbol. The Air Force Medal of Honor, adopted in 1965, added a golden eagle clutching a thunderbolt and stylized wings, capturing the speed and power of flight. The Coast Guard, operating under the Navy in wartime, uses the Navy's design. Today, the Space Force still awards the Air Force version, though proposals for a new orbital motif are under study. Every detail, from Minerva's gaze to the thunderbolt in the eagle's claws, is deliberate. These symbols are not mere decoration, they are a visual code, expressing the values each branch holds sacred. The reverence built into the medal's design is mirrored by the legal privileges and ceremonial honors that surround it. Statute gives the Medal of Honor a legal standing that no other American award can claim. Under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, every member of the armed forces, regardless of rank, must salute a Medal of Honor recipient first. This rule applies equally to the newest recruit and the most senior general. A 4-star officer, by regulation, initiates the salute, acknowledging that the medal itself outranks any insignia. Failure to observe this protocol is not a matter of etiquette, but a violation of military law, enforceable by court-martial. The privileges extend beyond ceremony. Federal law guarantees recipients a special pension, $1,761.30 per month as of 2024, indexed to inflation and paid for life. Surviving spouses are entitled to continue receiving this benefit. The medal also opens doors for recipients' families. Children of Medal of Honor holders receive automatic nomination and preferential consideration to attend the U.S. service academies, including West Point and Annapolis, though admission is not guaranteed. Burial rights carry equal weight. Recipients are entitled to interment at Arlington National Cemetery with full military honors, regardless of their highest rank or branch of service. Their graves are marked with a distinctive Medal of Honor emblem, and in some cases, a reserved place on Medal of Honor Hill. These privileges are not symbolic gestures. They are written into federal law and enforced by military institutions. The President's signature on each citation is not just ceremonial, it is a legal validation that confers these rights. The stakes, including honor, recognition, and tangible benefits, explain why false claims to the medal are met with such fierce legal response. Congress responded to growing reports of imposters and fraudulent claims with the Stolen Valor Act of 2005. Signed into law in December of that year, the act made it a federal crime to falsely claim, wear, or manufacture military decorations, including the Medal of Honor. The law carried real teeth, up to a year in prison for anyone caught lying about receiving the nation's highest award. Lawmakers argued that the rarity and sacrifice behind the medal demanded this level of protection. But the act soon faced a new kind of challenge, not from forgers, but from the Constitution itself. In 2007, a California Water District official named Xavier Alvarez stood before a public meeting and introduced himself as a retired Marine and Medal of Honor recipient. The statement was a lie. Federal prosecutors charged him under the new law. Alvarez fought back, taking his case all the way to the Supreme Court. In June 2012, the court ruled in a 6-3 decision that the Stolen Valor Act violated the First Amendment. The majority held that even when the lie is about something as sacred as the Medal of Honor, criminalizing speech without proof of fraud or harm goes too far. The ruling left lawmakers searching for a way to uphold the medal's integrity without violating constitutional rights. A year later, Congress passed a revised Stolen Valor Act. This time, the law targeted only those who lied about military honors to gain money, property, or tangible benefits. The 2013 law remains in effect, making it a crime to use a false claim of the Medal of Honor for personal gain, but protecting even the most offensive lies if no fraud is involved. The legal battles over the Stolen Valor Act reveal just how fiercely the medal's meaning is defended, and how its protection must be balanced against the very freedoms it is meant to honor. The Medal of Honor stands alone at the summit of the United States military award system. Its precedence is not a matter of tradition or sentiment. It is written into Department of Defense regulations and federal law. No other decoration, insignia, or citation outranks it. The chart of military honors begins with the Medal of Honor at the very top, followed by the Service Crosses, the Distinguished Service Cross for the Army, the Navy Cross for the Navy and Marine Corps, and the Air Force Cross for the Air Force. These crosses recognize extraordinary heroism. Each falls just short of the standard required for the Medal of Honor, actions that are exceptional but not deemed above and beyond the call of duty. Below the crosses, the Silver Star honors gallantry in action against an enemy of the United States. The Bronze Star, when marked with a V device, denotes valor in combat, while the Purple Heart is reserved for those wounded or killed in service, regardless of the circumstances of their injury. Each of these awards carries its own weight and history, but none approaches the legal and symbolic authority of the Medal of Honor. The order of precedence is more than ceremonial. It governs how medals are worn, how honors are listed in official records, and even how acts of heroism are evaluated. Regulations make clear that the Medal of Honor is the only award that requires direct approval from the President and mandates a salute from every member of the armed forces, regardless of their rank. This structure reflects a deliberate hierarchy. Valor recognized by the Medal of Honor is not simply the highest form of military achievement. It is the single standard by which all other acts of heroism are measured. In the American system, no ribbon, badge, or battlefield commission can eclipse the authority of this one medal. Today, fewer than 4,000 Americans have ever received the Medal of Honor, most after death, all by legal standard above any rank. Its meaning is still contested in courts, in memory, and on battlefields, both visible and invisible. As new generations inherit old wars and old wounds, the question endures: what do we truly honor, and what cost does that recognition demand? Share your perspective below.